And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. It's at Talkin Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing. Now, if you're not following us already, follow us. And if you are following us, get some of your friends and family to follow us too. All the information about this show and all of our contributors can be found up on the website, www.billycboxing.com. And joining me right now is Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey's boxing commissioner, Larry Hazzard. What's up, Larry?
Hey, Billy. How you doing?
Not too bad, my man. Not too bad. Got some stuff to talk to you about, man. Let's get going because it's going to be one of those, oh, man, I ran out of time. First and foremost, Terence Crawford fought last weekend against Jean. I don't know. They keep saying it different, but
Jean.
They said Jean. Yeah, I know. Every other French that's got the name with Jean is Jean. You know, but I don't know. I can't even. Hey, listen, that's why I say Billy C. I can't even pronounce my name. So, Terence Crawford, man, this kid's a real deal. I love watching Terence Crawford. I'm thinking it's a shame because of all the politics in the sport today, but there's some really good fights for him. First of all, what's your thoughts of his win over Jean, and what's your thoughts over this kid overall?
I think he's a good fighter. I think he's very talented, and I think that if he stays on track, he's eventually going to develop. I think he's still got some ways to go, but I think that he's very exciting. But I wasn't really that impressed with this fight last week, only because he was expected to win. The competition was really crappy. I mean, and those types of fights really don't impress me. They're talking, the commentators are trying to make the fight more than what it really was. I mean, it was a showcase fight for Terence, and he was expected to win. They were supposed to be evaluating his performance to determine if he would be the next opponent for Pacquiao and all of this other stuff. I mean, it kind of takes away from the authenticity of the sport of boxing, and it kind of takes away from the credibility of the fighter. That's my own personal opinion. I mean, he's a great fighter. Well, I don't want to say great. He's a very, very good, talented fighter, and I think that he could still meet the test against real legitimate competition, which I don't think he was in with last week. He won. He wasn't that impressive to me. It took him 11 rounds to take this guy out of there, and the guy really was nowhere near the talent that he is. So it doesn't change my opinion about him in terms of what type of fighter he is, but I'm just not that impressed with those type of fights.
I look at Terence Crawford and I see a guy that has hand speed. He's got foot movement. He's willing to exchange. I like him personally. I heard some of the commentators saying that he's got a boring style, and I'm saying to myself, well, how can that be boring? And then listening to you and just thoughts going through my head right now, I'm saying to myself, well, maybe it's because he kind of fights in spurts, Larry. Sometimes he does look a little boring at waiting and waiting for a counterpunch and, switching from southpaw to orthodox and back and doing stuff like that. And then other times he seems to go in for the kill and, lets 5-6 punches go. He doesn't have that one-punch knockout power, but he does have some accuracy and he's got some decent hand speed.
Well, he's got a lot. He has a lot of tools. He's got a lot of tools, but a lot of times what happens to fighters like Terence Crawford is that they fight to the level of the competition. That's what makes them boring. And last week, the level of competition was not that great, and he eventually wound himself up enough to take this guy out. It's almost like, he finished the guy off after the guy seemed like he made him angry. And then he, went on in and did what he was supposed to do, probably within 4 rounds. But had Jean not made him angry, who knows? The fight may have went a full 12 rounds. And, you find that a lot with fighters of Terence Crawford's caliber. That's why I think you do the fighter somewhat of a disservice when you put him in with that type of competition. Put him in with legitimate competition and let him show off his real skills. Okay? If he can finish a guy off in 2 or 3 rounds, let him do that. That's going to make him more exciting and make the fans want to see him more.
I think you make a great point. It's like any sport, not just boxing. You have a tendency to play up to your level of opposition. And I think you make a great point. I want to jump over because you made a statement about the authenticity of the sport and basically Derijan being overmatched against Terence Crawford. I want to jump into something I was going to talk about a little bit later on the show, but we might as well talk about it with you right off the bat. Andre Ward, there's been a lot of discussion about Andre Ward this week. People they have him anointed as the pound for pound #1 fighter now, and all of this stuff. And listen, I just want to say this. Andre Ward was a great fighter. He probably still is. All right. But the Super 6 was 4 years ago, and that's really the last time that I was even arguing that he should have been a pound for pound #1 fighter based on his level of opposition. But how could the guy be slipped into that spot now when he's fought 3 times in 4 years, and he had over an 18-month layoff? But the other part of this is this. He signed a deal with HBO, a 3-fight deal that will accumulate into a showdown with Kovalev. And now both of these fighters, basically, we know this contract is in place. So both of these fighters have to win their next 2 fights each before they fight that 3rd fight. And doesn't that put some kind of question about the authenticity of the matches that both Andre Ward and Kovalev will be facing in order to, secure that showdown with each other? What's your thoughts on?
It certainly does, and it makes it look like it's all planned.
Yeah.
To take the fans for a ride again.
Yeah.
And you can't really see that's what hurts the sport when you see these little maneuvers that are supposed to be slick business moves when. That you could see right through it. It's like looking at a $2 suit. You know what I mean? You're not fooling anybody with what you're doing. And you can't, one thing about the sport of boxing, you live for the moment. Andre, I think, is a very good fighter, but now he has to prove himself all over again. You can't live off the memory of his past performances because he hasn't fought anybody he hasn't fought in a while. And the sport has continued to move forward. New stars, new fighters have emerged on the scene. And like many people, when Andre Ward was going strong, I thought that he was pound for pound, possibly the best. And I still think that he has that potential of being that fighter. But right now, I got my eyes on Triple G. I got my eyes on Terence Crawford. I got my eyes on, a couple of other guys, Pusto. I got my eyes on a couple of other guys who have been performing at top-notch level, man. I mean, you just can't insert or be inserted right back into the mix now without proving yourself.
Exactly.
You can't live off of those past performances. He hasn't fought, and so now he has to prove himself all over again. As far as I'm concerned,
I agree. And you got guys like the one you were probably thinking of was Chocolito, Roman Gonzalez.
Chocolito. Oh my God!
There's another one, right? And what you just did, your reaction when all of a sudden the name and you all of a sudden realize who it is. Oh my God! You say to yourself, "Oh yeah," because what just instantly popped in your head was a performance, maybe a barrage of punches or just something.
Man, non-stop.
And you know what's funny? If I say Floyd Mayweather, and I hate to keep doing this, but if I say Floyd, I can't think of anything that comes to mind except for stuff outside the ring. I mean, it's funny because you think of Chocolito, you think of all these. You throw any other name, even past guys, you think of all of a sudden, bam. You have this vision of something. And with Floyd, I have a vision of money. I have a vision of cars. I have a vision of strip clubs. I just don't remember him really in the ring.
I have a vision of that ridiculous 24/7 crap.
Oh, I haven't watched.
Constantly had to, look at.
People are begging me to watch it again, and I said, I got so turned off by it with him that I've never watched it again. So I don't know, but I agree with you on Andre Ward because consider this. He's 31 now. The last time he fought, consistently, he was 28 years old. He could have been sitting out his prime, Larry.
Yeah.
I mean, from 28 to 31 in boxing, those are your best years, aren't they?
Those are, yeah. I would say from 25 to 31. That's the career.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the career. And don't get me wrong. I like Andre Ward. I think he's one of my favorites. I think that he possibly can still, get himself back into that. But, you don't get a free ride in this sport, man. Not with me, you don't. You just don't get a free ride. And then when I think of getting back to Chocolito, I've heard him be described, in other terms. But that guy, that kid reminds me of a young Roberto Duran, man, like no other fighter. Non-stop, like constant energy. You ever see a kid who's just got constant energy, man, that, he just doesn't stop from bell to bell. And I think that he's the one that's really going to emerge as the pound-for-pound guy. I like Triple G right now, but Chocolito, man, he is going to be the guy that I think is going to eventually emerge as the pound-for-pound guy in boxing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with you. He's a young kid that is just like we said last time. He's a blue collar, bring your lunch pal. I mean, and I agree with you about Roberto Duran as far as completeness, but and maybe I don't see it in him, but Roberto Duran, a young Roberto Duran, I'm talking mid-70s Roberto Duran, the lightweight Roberto Duran.
Yes.
He was a mean SOB, Larry. I mean, he was mean. He was a mean guy, I mean,
indeed.
and I don't know if I see that in Chocolito. I could be totally wrong. I don't see him smile. I see him try to destroy his opponent with every punch. He very well could have a mean streak in him. But there's a handful of fighters that I've seen or have seen tape of that I know were mean guys, and Roberto Duran was one of them. Sonny Liston was another one that comes to mind. I mean, just mean guys, and I don't know. I don't know about Chocolito, but he's definitely a guy. I hope the boxing fans put aside the fact that he's a small guy because if they don't, they're going to be missing out.
Well, I think he has the boxing meanness. Maybe I'll modify it.
Oh no! As far as doing what he does, there's no question. No, I agree with you. I agree that he reminds. I think that's a great comparison to a young Roberto Duran. All I'm saying is that Roberto Duran, this kid seems like he's a nice guy after.
Well, you're talking personality now.
Yeah, you dress this kid, take him out of his boxing garb and put him in street clothes. He might be a nice kid. Roberto Duran wasn't. He was just as mean.
I agree. I agree. Personality. So
yeah, I mean,
what I'm saying, he has the boxing meanness of Roberto.
Oh yeah, I don't want to get hit by him.
That's right.
And the thing is those guys throw so many punches. I mean, and he knocks them out. You see, that's something that people don't realize. In that weight class, you've always seen a lot of punches thrown, a lot of action, right? But you don't see a lot of knockouts. Not knockouts. You see TKOs and stuff because of cuts and stuff like that. But you don't see a lot of knockouts. He's got that one knockout punch for those little guys, which is kind of rare, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I think that's his key to his greatness, is that knockout power at that lower weight class, which you don't really see, which is really rare. And the boxing skills, the tenacity, and again, that boxing meanness, personality, nice. Well, he's more like Sugar Ray Leonard that way, because a lot of people fail to realize how mean Sugar Ray Leonard was inside the ring. And he was the nicest guy with that bright smile and personality outside of the ring. But he was mean as hell, man, once he climbed through those ropes.
That's what I love about Sugar Ray, because he did it all. And that's when I get into these arguments with the younger fans. And Sugar Ray Leonard, he wasn't even one of my favorite fighters, at the time. It's just that when time goes on, you learn to appreciate everything that these guys have done. And with Sugar Ray Leonard, he was able to demonstrate so many different facets. People, their first, like what they do with Triple G, their first thought of Triple G is he's a power puncher only. And when they first thought of Sugar Ray Leonard, they say, oh, well, he's a dancer, he's a boxer, he runs away. Yeah, that's not the case. That wasn't the case with him. He fought all kinds of fights. He was smart. He was extremely intelligent. He would fight against his opponent's biggest weakness would be his game plan. But anyway, speaking of knockout punchers, what's your thoughts on the news out today? And I don't even know if you caught it yet, but the return of Antonio Margarito. There's rumor that he's coming back. He's been in the gym. He's gotten the medical clearance of his eye. Right now, the only thing stopping him from getting in the ring is he's demanding too much money. But it looks like that might come around. What's your thoughts at 37? He hasn't fought since he was knocked out in 2011.
Well, I haven't heard. That's news to me. It's news to me. But, Margarito, I think Margarito has, now just my personal opinion on the fighter, I think Margarito has seen his better days.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's seen his better days, man. I'm not excited about, when you said that, I'm just surprised that I hadn't heard it, but I'm not excited about the return of Margarito. I thought that Margarito was headed downhill, when he was on his way out of the game, before the eye injury and all of that stuff. He was a very good fighter. I don't even know if I want to call Margarito a great fighter. He was an excellent fighter, but I'm not excited about his return. I think that he's seen his better days.
No doubt. I think his career was pretty much ended by Manny Pacquiao. I think that that was the end. Well, maybe I should throw the reason why he's coming back. He just got divorced. His wife took all his money. Wife took all his money, so he's got no choice. So everybody says, why is he coming back? His eye is damaged. He's 37 years old, like you said. Yeah. His better days are behind him. Oh, his wife took all his money.
With Cotto, you could see. He was fading. That's it.
That whole situation, I'm so New York looks so bad with that, with the eye and everything else. That was terrible. But so we'll keep our eyes on. No pun intended. We'll keep our eyes on him. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was now I'm not a big MMA fan. Not at all actually. I know that there's a whole new generation that loves it. It's been around now over 20 years. So it's been around. And the face, at least in my opinion, or at least the face that I don't mind looking at of the UFC is Ronda Rousey, right? And she's undefeated, and she's does very well. She's I think the face of them. She's been in movies. She's done all this stuff. And her next fight is actually against one of the best female fighters of recent times in Holly Holm. But today it was reported that Ronda Rousey has said that if everything goes well against her fight, if everything goes well with her fight against Holly Holm, that she's considering switching and going to boxing. That her goal is to become a world champion in boxing and then jiu-jitsu. What's your thoughts about Ronda Rousey making that crossover to boxing? I think it would be good or bad?
I think it'll be good for female boxing. Okay. Well, what's the? Well, first off, MMA. we in New Jersey, we were very critical in the growth of MMA. It was actually right in my office where we developed the unified rules for MMA. And the Fertittas and Dana White and those guys actually got a big boost for their success from New Jersey when New Jersey licensed them to promote here. They couldn't even go to Nevada at the time. I think that, what she will do for female boxing, once again, is sort of what Christy Martin did for female boxing when she was, when she came along, and Don King, actually promoted her a lot on in big events and on TV, because television is the key to it, really. And I think she's a personality. Combative sports, including boxing. We thrive. Our survival depends on personalities. Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali. He was a great personality. And that's what really helps the sport. So I think that Ronda Rousey, who is she's quite a fighter, in that MMA competition. And so now for her to be talking about crossing over to boxing, quite naturally, she's going to bring a lot of her MMA fans with her. It's going to draw a lot of attention once again to female boxing and how well she can do. Then the arguments are going to start again, as to who's the best MMA fighters or, boxers. And that type of interest is always good for the sport. So I think it's a good idea. She's talented. She can fight. And so let's just see if she can transfer those skills from one form of combat competition to another. I think that she will, and I think she'll be successful, and I think that female boxing will come alive again for however long she's around, and then it'll just sort of level off back into its place where it is now. So I think it's good.
It boils down to a character. She's a character. People like her and stuff, and that's why she's successful in the UFC. And you're right. If she made the move to boxing, that character would come with her. I mean, you look at something like that and you see a positive. You look at the Margarito situation, you see a negative. I don't see any positives with Margarito.
Right. And she's a very nice looking.
Right.
She's a very nice looking girl.
Right.
You could have thousands of fans will turn it on just because she's nice looking.
Of course.
Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Ali was a very nice looking guy.
Yeah.
And you had people who wanted to watch him for various reasons. Some wanted to see him get his mouth shut.
Right.
Others liked him talking a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's personality.
Hey, look at Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah, when I think of Sugar Ray Leonard, the first thing I think of 7-Up commercials. You remember he used to do the 7-Up?
Right. That's right.
And he had that $1 million smile, right?
That $1 million smile, man.
Holding a can of 7-Up, it's like, hey.
That's right.
But anyway, yeah, no, I agree with you. Hey, one last thing, Larry. This weekend, this guy's got more lives than Freddy Krueger, no pun intended, for Halloween coming up. But Tony the Tiger Thompson against Malik Scott. I don't know how I really don't know how he keeps in there. He just gets these lucky wins every now and then, and he keeps going. I mean, more power to him. He's slow. He's big. He keeps winning. Malik Scott was a guy that seemed to show a lot of promise early on, and then he had that fight with Deontay Wilder that most of us think was a fixed fight. He laid right down real quick, and haven't heard much of him since. What's your thoughts on this one?
Well, for both of these guys, you know how you get fighters who always seem to be able to tread water, so to speak. They stay in the picture, but yet they can never cross over into that mainstream. And it seems like every fight that they have is a live or die type of fight, and that's the way I see this for both of these guys, Malik Scott and Thompson. You know, like you said, neither one of these guys ever seemed like they could really make it, and they always are in a do or die type situation. And I think that that's exactly what this is for both of them. Okay, so one of them is going to live, and the other one is going to die, because you got to have one. You got to have a winner and a loser. And the loser here, I think, is going to be the end for him. And the other one, he'll be around for one more opportunity. And that's basically what their careers have been like, you know, for the most part. And I think that's about it.
I think that they should give every fan that buys a ticket either a can of Red Bull or some No-Dos, because both these guys have a tendency to be pretty boring fighters to watch. I'm like, oh man, 10 rounds. I don't know if I could actually sit and watch
and you know, and it just goes to show you once again, you know, how boxing has really come back. They even found the TV network. What was it, True Network for them?
No, Bounce TV. The Bounce TV. The True TV.
That network.
Yeah, they found a network, and that's funny. That's a great point. You know, they found and you have an obscure fight, Tony Thompson against Malik Scott on an obscure network. You know, because until I got to be honest with you, until they announced that they were doing fights on Bounce TV, I never heard of Bounce TV, you know.
I've never heard of it either, it shows you we're back. Boxing is back, man.
Listen, all I know is, you know, I can keep up with CBS, NBC, ABC, you know, Bounce TV, okay, whatever, man, the more the merrier. But anyway, Larry, hey, great stuff as usual, and we'll look forward to you next week, my man.
Okay, Billy. Okay.
All right. Have a good weekend. Hey, be nice to those trick-or-treaters, will you?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to put on some weight, man, because, you know, I love those Snickers, and my wife, she'll buy a pack of that, and I'll take half of it and hide it.
Yeah, throw it in the freezer. Listen, I'm a Kit Kat guy. I like the Kit Kats in the freezer, you know, and then you turn all the lights off. Yeah, there's no candy here. There's no kids.
There's no more.
Yeah, we're all out. Yeah, what can I tell you? See you later. You know, but anyway, enjoy the weekend, my friend.
Okay, you too, Billy.
All right, take care. That's Larry Hazzard, Boxing Hall of Famer and the New Jersey State Athletic Commissioner, giving us his thoughts, and 100% correct about Ronda Rousey, and you know, she's a character, and she'll be good for the sport, especially women's boxing. And it's a shame that a guy like Antonio Margarito, who in my opinion, his career pretty much shot after the Manny Pacquiao fight, that he's even considering coming back. And like Larry said, he don't care, and I don't think many people care. You know, it's not like he was a great fighter to begin with. He was a devastating fighter, but then once they found him cheating before the Shane Mosley fight, it's tainted his whole career. So I don't know, and I can't see a guy, just exactly what Larry said, a guy that was faded when he fought after the Pacquiao fight. So his last fight, he was already faded in the rematch against Cotto. That was December of 2011. You know, and now he's 37. You know, 4 years later, I doubt he got much better. We'll be back in 2.
Talking boxing.